The man stood quietly near the counter, holding a worn-out wallet in his hands. His clothes were clean but old, his shoes slightly torn at the edges. People passed by him without a second glance. One employee even rolled her eyes and whispered, "He doesn't look like he can afford anything here." What no one in that store realized was that this poor customer owned the entire place. Before we begin, if stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Welcome to Kindness Story Hub, where every story reminds us that a little kindness can change everything. It was a busy Saturday afternoon in a large retail store in downtown Chicago. The store was known for its premium products and high-end customers. The employees were trained to spot serious buyers, people who looked like they belonged. That day, a man named Daniel walked in. Daniel didn't look like the typical customer. His jacket was faded, and his jeans had clearly seen better days. He moved slowly, looking around the store with calm curiosity, as if he was taking everything in. At the entrance, a young employee named Tyler glanced at him and immediately lost interest. Instead of greeting him like every other customer, Tyler turned away and continued chatting with a well-dressed couple. Daniel didn't say anything. He simply smiled to himself and walked further inside. He stopped at a display of watches. They were elegant, expensive, and beautifully arranged. Daniel picked one up carefully, examining it with interest. A saleswoman named Karen noticed him from across the floor. She frowned slightly and walked over, not with a welcoming smile, but with a guarded expression. "Those are expensive," she said bluntly. "If you're just browsing, please don't touch too much." Daniel looked at her, surprised but calm. "I understand," he said softly. "I just wanted to see the craftsmanship." Karen crossed her arms. "Well, these aren't really for casual buyers." The words hung in the air, heavy with judgment. Daniel gently placed the watch back and nodded. "Thank you," he said, before walking away. As he moved through the store, the same pattern repeated. Employees ignored him. Some whispered. Others simply pretended he didn't exist. At one point, he asked for help finding a specific product. The employee he approached barely looked at him and pointed vaguely toward the back without even stopping his conversation with another staff member. Daniel thanked him anyway. Despite everything, Daniel remained polite. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't complain. But his eyes told a quiet story, one of disappointment, not anger. After about 20 minutes, Daniel walked toward the checkout counter. There was a line, and the cashier, Lisa, was busy scanning items for a customer ahead of him. When it was finally Daniel's turn, Lisa barely looked up. "Yes," she said, clearly tired and uninterested. Daniel placed a small item on the counter. It wasn't expensive, just something simple. Lisa scanned it quickly. "That'll be $18.99. Daniel opened his old wallet and carefully counted out the cash. His hands were steady, but there was something thoughtful about the way he moved, as if he was paying attention to more than just the transaction. Lisa took the money without a word and handed him the receipt. No smile. No, thank you. Nothing. Daniel looked at her for a moment. Then he smiled gently and said, "Have a nice day." Lisa didn't respond. Daniel turned and walked toward the exit. But just before he stepped out, he paused. He looked back at the store. At the employees. At the customers. at the atmosphere that had made him feel invisible. Then, quietly, he walked back in. This time, he didn't head to the shelves. He walked straight toward the manager's office. The door was slightly open. Inside, the store manager, Mr. Collins, was reviewing paperwork. Daniel knocked softly. Mr. Collins looked up. "Yes. Can I help you?" Daniel stepped in and closed the door behind him. "I believe you can," he said calmly. Something in his voice made Mr. Collins sit up straighter. "All right, what seems to be the problem?" Daniel reached into his wallet again. But this time, instead of cash, he pulled out a small card. He placed it on the desk. Mr. Collins picked it up. As his eyes scanned the card, his expression changed instantly. Confusion, then shock, then fear. I don't understand," Mr. Collins stammered. Daniel smiled slightly. "My name is Daniel Hayes," he said. "I'm the owner of this store." The room went silent. Mr. Collins' face turned pale. "Sir, I had no idea." Daniel nodded. "That's the point." A few minutes later, all the employees were called to the front of the store. They stood in a line, whispering nervously to each other. No one knew what was happening. Daniel walked out of the manager's office and stood before them. Now, for the first time, everyone was really looking at him. Karen's eyes widened. Tyler's face went blank. Lisa looked like she had just realized something terrible. Mr. Collins cleared his throat. "Everyone, this is Mr. Hayes, the owner of the company." A wave of shock moved through the group. Daniel looked at each of them, one by one. "I came here today as a customer," he began. "Not to test you, but to understand what our customers experience." He paused. "And what I experienced was disappointing." No one spoke. "I was ignored. Judged. Dismissed," Daniel continued. "Not because of how I acted, but because of how I looked." Karen lowered her head. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Lisa stared at the floor. Daniel's voice remained calm, but firm. "This store was built on a simple idea," he said. "That every person who walks through those doors deserves respect." He took a step forward. "Not just the ones who look wealthy. Not just the ones who spend a lot. Everyone." The silence grew heavier. "I've spent years building this business," Daniel said. "But today, I realized something important: a business isn't defined by its products." He looked directly at them. "It's defined by its people." A long pause followed. Then Daniel's expression softened. "I'm not here to punish anyone," he said. "I'm here to remind you of something." He glanced around the store. "You never know who someone is. You never know their story. And you never know the impact a small act of kindness can have." Lisa's eyes filled with tears. Karen whispered, "I'm sorry." Daniel nodded gently. "I believe you." He turned toward the exit again, but this time, he didn't stop. As he reached the door, he looked back one last time. "Let this be a new beginning," he said. "For all of us." And then he walked out. The store remained quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, things began to change. Employees started greeting every customer who walked in. Not just with words, but with genuine warmth. They listened more. Judged less. They remembered that behind every face is a story they may never fully understand. Weeks later, the store felt different. Not because of new products or promotions, but because of something far more powerful. Kindness. And as for Daniel, he never stopped visiting his stores. But now, he didn't need to test anyone. Because the lesson had already been learned. In the end, this story reminds us of something simple, yet powerful. Kindness doesn't cost anything, but it can mean everything. So the next time you see someone who doesn't look the part, remember this story. Because the biggest mistake you can make is underestimating someone. And the greatest thing you can do is treat everyone with kindness. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because a small act of kindness can change someone's entire world.